A história do nosso planeta está sendo escrita todos os dias. Só que ela está ficando quente demais. O aquecimento global é um fato. Mas também é um fato que estamos escrevendo essa história. E ela pode ser diferente. A JBS, uma das maiores produtoras de alimentos do mundo, apresentou um compromisso global. JBS Net Zero. Até 2040, ano após ano, ela vai melhorar ainda mais o jeito que produz, com 100% de energia limpa e mais eficiência. Hoje, a JBS já exige desmatamento ilegal zero e monitora todos os seus fornecedores. Até quem vende para eles começou a ser monitorado também. E vai ter muito investimento em ciência para criar novas tecnologias. Não vai ser fácil, mas será feito. Para tudo isso sair do papel. JBS Net Zero 2040. Alimentar a mudança é o nosso compromisso. A história do nosso planeta está sendo escrita todos os dias. Só que ela está ficando quente demais. O aquecimento global é um fato, mas também é um fato que estamos escrevendo essa história. E ela pode ser diferente. A JBS, uma das maiores produtoras de alimentos do mundo, apresentou um compromisso global, JBS Net Zero. Até 2040, ano após ano, ela vai melhorar ainda mais o jeito que produz, com 100% de energia limpa e mais eficiência. Hoje, a JBS já exige desmatamento ilegal zero e monitora todos os seus fornecedores. Até quem vende para eles começou a ser monitorado também. E vai ter muito investimento em ciência para criar novas tecnologias. Não vai ser fácil, mas será feito. Para tudo isso sair do papel. JBS Net Zero 2040. Alimentar a mudança é o nosso compromisso.
Falar do nosso futuro é também lembrar do nosso passado. Villa-Lobos é o pai da música brasileira. É responsável por pegar vários regionalismos nesse Brasil continental e por fazer com que isso se transformasse numa linguagem única, numa identidade cultural. A preocupação que Villa teve com o povo brasileiro, com a cultura brasileira, se reflete nos dias de hoje. E o que a gente está plantando hoje, com certeza, irá se refletir em 2050 e num futuro bem próximo também.
história do nosso planeta está sendo escrita todos os dias. Só que ela está ficando quente demais. O aquecimento global é um fato, mas também é um fato que estamos escrevendo essa história. E ela pode ser diferente. A JBS, uma das maiores produtoras de alimentos do mundo, apresentou um compromisso global, JBS Net Zero. Até 2040, ano após ano, ela vai melhorar ainda mais o jeito que produz, com 100% de energia limpa e mais eficiência. Hoje, a JBS já exige desmatamento ilegal zero e monitora todos os seus fornecedores. Até quem vende para eles começou a ser monitorado também. E vai ter muito investimento em ciência para criar novas tecnologias. Não vai ser fácil, mas será feito. Para tudo isso sair do papel. JBS Net Zero 2040. Alimentar a mudança é o nosso compromisso.
Olá, bom dia. Eu sou Renata.
Hello, good morning. My name is Renata Nishio, Technical Manager of CBDs, and my name is Victor Albuquerque, and we will lead you in our program. Welcome once again to Sustainable 2021, a realization of CBDS, Brazilian Business Council for Sustainable Development. Brazil represents the international network of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Yesterday, Amazon was the central event, central agenda. We are already in the portal of CBDS. Our team is putting the link here on the side in the YouTube chat. Our thanks to the sponsors who made this event possible: JBS, Bradesco, Itaú, Santander, Carrefour, Bloomberg Philanthropies, Braskem, DSM, Equinor, Luart, Moore Foundation, Siemens Energy, Vale, and Women Business.
Iniciaremos agora.
We will start the first panel of this day, Vision 2050, New Agenda for Business and Society. Will participate in this panel Diane Holdorf, Managing Director, Food and Nature Program, World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Karen Formigoni, Managing Director, Brazil, and President of the Environment Business Unit of Arcadis. Ana Cristina Cupelo, Leader of Sustainability for Equinor Brazil. And to moderate, I give the floor to Adriana Lelis, Vice Chair of Stakeholder Council, Amsterdam.
Bom dia, Victor.
Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Renata. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Marina Grossi for the invitation and also thank ABDS. I know you have worked a lot to make this event happen. For me, it's a privilege to be with you in this morning, especially with this great opening with Bacchianus #4, great event showing how Brazil is big, how our soul is so splendid, that we can have everything in this day, talking about sustainability with these beautiful, great women. We're going to start talking right now. The theme today, the new agenda for companies and societies. We are going to talk about this Vision 2050, a very dense document, and it's very important that CBDS is working back with this document, launching again in the beginning of the year of 2020, a document that is available at the CBDS website. You can read about it, not only for people that work with sustainability. And this revisit to this document was a broad consultation of many stakeholders. We conducted events, seminars, meetings with 4,000 stakeholders participating of several Brazilian states, different sectors, and also of other countries. All of that facilitated by the technology. Most of the work took place during the pandemic. To get it started, in this morning, I'd like to talk to Diane Holdorf, bringing in the first question for her. World Business has done its revisiting, this rereading of this document about this revision at the same time that CBDS launched documents simultaneously, as well as other business council are doing other parts of the world. What is very important to bear in mind, I'd like to ask you, Diana, in your thought in your mind about these two organizations working jointly, in your experience, what is the importance of the business sector to have clear objectives about sustainable development, having all these stakeholders, and then we include government, societies in a broader manner? Good morning, you have the floor. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for including me here today. So great to have this time together. And I appreciate that we're taking this opportunity to talk about what business needs for our shared vision of the future. It's incredibly important for business to have clarity on the priorities and objectives of what it means to business strategy and operations in achieving the SDGs and the Paris Climate Agreement while delivering for shareholders and value chains. Vision 2050, called A Time to Transform, is really a framework for business action that is aligned to these very urgent challenges that we all face if we're going to assure that 9 billion people can live well within planetary boundaries by 2050. As we all know, we're here today, we care about the fact that our world faces unprecedented challenges, a climate crisis, a nature emergency, and mounting inequality. These imperatives must be addressed by business for us to continue to succeed in our own business visions and strategies. One of the things that we did with Vision 2050 is look across the major economic sectors that have leadership opportunities and expectations to contribute to the vision that we all share for the future. And we identified 9 economic pathways that society needs and that business provides, and looked at what it means for businesses in each of those economic sectors to help make transformation happen. Working, of course, in partnership with other stakeholders, but using the innovation and financial strength of the business environment to help drive influence and action on these very urgent issues of climate, nature, and equity, while also thinking about how business is valued by investors and shareholders, and how that value is reassessed based on how companies respond to these challenges. So Vision 2050 provides a shared vision of what business can do together within a sector and across sectors and value chains. It sets out pathways of what it means for living well, supporting the dignity and rights of all people, taking the role each sector provides and ensuring that basic needs are met and that equal opportunities are available. It also, though, looks at what it means to operate a global, regional, national, even a local business within planetary boundaries. It means what businesses need to do to contribute to assuring that we can stabilize our climate at 1.5 degrees and that we can protect and regenerate nature so that it's providing the resource and value to business, societies, and communities. We have the ability to adapt. We have the capacity to succeed. And we know that together we can do this in a way that meets business objectives and societal needs so that we've got a real regenerative and equitable future.
Obrigada, Diana. Agora a gente continua.
Thank you, Diana. We are going to keep on with our wonderful leaders working with us in this morning. Thank you for your time. I'm going to follow with Karen Formigoni. She's the managing director of Arcadis Brazil. It's an organization, a global organization that is so important to work with environmental projects that can add value to the society, not only for business, but the whole complexity of these chains. My question for you, Karen, is how do you understand that innovation can bring path to the vision of 2050, looking to the future that we have before us, that we foresee, that we work jointly to visualize, and what can be implemented quickly without the need of major innovations? Of course, we are going through some urgencies, climate urgencies. For example, we have received news for those who were just looking into the crisis of the pandemic. So how do you foresee that with opportunities that we can have in the world? You have the floor, Karen. Thank you very much. Thank you, CBDS, Adriana, and everybody, because it's a great opportunity to share this panel with these great women, with this trajectory so beautiful in the professional world. Well, thank you for your question. As an organization, we do face a great challenge before us. That's what moves us, bringing solutions or to create solutions with clients for environmental, social problems that are very complex, as you have said before, related to the climate changes, also to the impact in the economies and businesses, also to this global organization that challenges points such as mobility, use of water and energy, that brings the needs of clean and renewable sources. And at the same time, we have to protect biodiversity, promoting harmony, to preserve. I mean, there are so many different issues, and also to think about the data that we receive in the informational world. And it's very necessary for the decision-making process, having a society that is more and more active and asking for a position from the government in this society as a whole. That's the reason why we are trying to find resilient, sustainable solutions, and it has our work has been key to achieve these objectives. That is part of our organization to improve quality of life in the places where we work, and we face innovation as a means so we can reach to better ending. It helps us to work, to bring knowledge, our digital expertise with technical knowledge as well, to bring in social environmental solutions and also engineering solutions. When we think about this 2050 vision and the challenges that we have in the next 30 years, even considering all this need to speed up the reduction of emissions because of the climate urgency, that famous what brought us together is not what's going to make us go forward. It shows the need of thinking and acting in a different manner, looking therefore innovative solutions and answers that must be quick. Well, I share some examples with you. What is the meaning of that in practice? How we can bring innovation to build this new future without having this extraordinary effort, having really quick answers. Starting, for example, with solutions regarding infrastructure, how we manage water. We are following that year after year, how cities are facing difficulties, also water safety with the droughts that we are facing now in the world, and in Brazil is the case as well. With this integrated vision of engineering with social environmental things, we are acting with solutions of engineering that are more resilient, more sustainable, that look also start from the capture of the water and how we deliver it to the people, always in a sustainable manner, having solutions that reduces the losses of this very precious good. It's a gigantic problem in Brazil. This would also need more security. Just for you to bear in mind, we have lost 38% of water that is treated and drunk in Brazil. So every 100 liters, we lose 38 liters. How we can bring the best return on investment in the long and middle run, and how we can make it available for people. So having solutions that are not complex, they are very somehow easy in the use of water. So the other thing to think about solution based on nature, we have some cases with very positive impacts. We are developing a project in Peru to use an urban area to the potential impacts because of climate change. We delivered a very resilient infrastructure with some walls of protection, contention, also areas of flooding that can contain the water in case of natural or extreme events. So when we built these structures, we reused the materials that came from the actions of decontamination and the pollution of the water. This maybe would be a problem to dispose of these materials. And we brought also the concept of circularity in this project. We are looking not only for technical solutions, but business models, solutions that many times have low cost, that might bring the win-win possibilities for all the stakeholders. This is clear for us that innovation is connected to digital innovation as well as to the new practices in sustainability in our capacity to adapt. I share that. I'm very proud to say that Arcadis is known as a company that is very innovative in the social environmental field. This has been granted by an independent institute that is called Vedanti. We have a gold classification that called Covadis, very reliable company in this world in terms of business classification. It shows that these ESG principles in our core is our core, and it has made a difference for the society.
Por compartilhar conosco, a gente sabe da importância que é isso tudo que você trouxe.
Thank you for sharing that.
Que a gente está atravessando uma crise hídrica e talvez seja mais rigorosa do que a anterior. Nós sabemos bem que valioso.
We know how valuable it is to address this subject that encompasses all society. Let's move forward with our next panelist, which is Verônica Coelho. She is the manager of sustainability for Equinor Brazil, and she works in a company that addresses energy in Brazil. It is a company that is involved with the 2030 and 2050 objects with energy that is part of the Vision 2050. Do you think, Veronica, these objectives are achievable if the companies keep on moving the same path they are and speed they have been moving? Thank you very much for your question. First of all, I'd like to say that I am very honored to be here. And this is such an event that has been very carefully prepared, and we started with such beautiful music. I'd like to share Equinor vision, which is part of our journey and the journey of everyone. I'd also like to thank for the participation of everyone here in this panel. I think that the climate change that we are living today is the greatest challenge of our time. We know that the energy system is going through a transition and that it is important for us to face these challenges. And in Brazil, I think we may feel really privileged because we are very rich in natural resources with a lot of potential, and we are of power in renewable energy, especially with wind and solar energy. And for Equinor, energy and sustainability are priorities. We are one of the greatest offshore operators in the world with a very robust portfolio and resilient, and we are over three pillars: our safety, high value, and low carbon emissions. And in this context, more and more we are developing as a broad energy company with oil and gas, which is our origin. This is our first activity, the renewable energies, carbon capture, and hydrogen production. In 2030, Equinor is going to be a leader in low carbon emissions, and we are going to be a global leader in wind energy and offshore. All of that because we've acquired experiences in decades within energy production and carbon capture. We aim at being a net zero company by 2030, whereas we include our emissions and global emissions. Our strategy is to position Equinor to transition with energy, and we expect that more than 50% of our investments, and it's a very strong number, they are going to be directed to low carbon emissions by 2030. And by 2025, we hope that this is going to be more than 50% of the company's investments. So we do need to focus on this. This is grounded in a very important commitment with sustainability, which is one of the facilitators of our strategy. And today I can say that this is within everything we do. It shows our commitment with transformation and sustainability. And we have selected three main areas so that we can concentrate our efforts. The first one, to continue on reducing emissions, which is important and it's a priority. Second, to develop and work with the development of renewable energy. And lastly, as a third area, we need to develop solutions to remove carbon from the atmosphere and from our industrial processes. And of course, all of these three areas are all working together and they reinforce each other. With our experience in technology that was developed throughout those years, with oil and gas, we need to use this to develop low carbon emission solutions. The profit that is being generated with this activity is the one that is going to be fomented in investments of renewable energy projects. This is a win-win situation. In 2020, we had the ambition of becoming net zero energy by 2050. As we've mentioned before, we include emissions from production with oil and gas and the final energy that's been generated by the company. So we fulfill all the commitments 1 and 3. This is a clear strategy that demonstrates the commitment of Equinor in a long term, and the agreement with the Paris Agreement. I'd like to acknowledge that we have the commitment of reducing our net carbon emissions by 2030 and by 40% in 2035. And we will keep on continuing reducing the emissions in our activities. And we already emit half of the amount if compared to other companies, including carbon storage and hydrogen production. And Brazil is in the correct path, and with Equinor at global level and relevance in the company's portfolio, considering we have this abundant abundant resource of energy in Brazil. In oil and gas companies, we are among the ones that emit the least carbon, around 9 kilos of CO2 for each barrel produced by Equinor. And by 2025, we aim at reducing even more, around 2.5 kilos per barrel. The global average is around 17 kilos of CO2 per barrel. the footprint of absolute carbon emissions in our Bacia de Campos plant. We issue around the equivalent to 50 cars in that function, and we are aiming at adding digitalization solutions, which is some innovation that has been mentioned as well, to optimize the energy consumptions. And we are implementing the replacement of energy generation from diesel turning into gas through a platform that we call Peregrino C. And we have been working with our suppliers with several actions in order that they can also reduce their process with CO2 emissions, optimizing, for example, our navigation fleet and the transportation of works into platforms. We are also studying the use of battery-fed boats to transport the workers. So we have a cod field that is within development in the basin at Santos Bay. We are going to have a lot of demand in energy, but the main impact that we are going to have with the cod field is that we are going to use a new technology offshore in order to reduce the CO2 emissions and the installation of energy that is combined. We are going to have gas engines and vapor energies just to increase the energy efficiency and then reduce emissions. Thank you very much, Anna. It was great to listen to you talking about a company that is so engaged with so much strategy and investment with very important solutions so that we can reach the Vision 2050. Moving forward, I'm going to call Diana Holdorf again to talk to us. Diana, one important thing, one nice thing that happens in multisectorial areas and that gains relevance is food. And in 2021, this subject was treated as relevance in the Full System Summit. And the sustainability goals, they have included these and addressed all leaders with a lot of coalitions that have been formed from this. The question is, what is expected as tangible results, and how do you and the world business can contribute, considering Brazil is one of the largest producers of food in the world?
Absolutely, Adriana. Thank you so
Com
much.
certeza, Adriana. Muito obrigada pela sua
2021
pergunta.
was certainly a very
2021,
important
com
year for
certeza, foi
action on
ano
food
muito
systems.
importante para os
And food
sistemas de
systems are one of
alimentos.
those
Os
market
sistemas de
sectors that
alimentos
we
são
highlighted
daqueles
in Vision
espaços de
2050.
mercado que fazem parte
Food
dessa visão
systems are
2050.
kind of unique
E
in
são
that
sistemas que
they
são
sit really
únicos.
at the center of these challenges on climate, nature, and equity, with the added aspect of health. People's health and nutrition are so linked to our diets and the foods that we choose. And for the first time ever, the United Nations took a very integrated approach to understanding what pathways need to be led by governments, together with so many stakeholders, including business, to take actions to address food systems transformation. The United Nations set up an integrated secretariat to prepare for this food systems summit, with whom we worked very closely. Our CEO, Peter Bakker, was appointed by the Secretary General to be a member of the UN's advisory committee in preparation for the food systems summit, with the role to mobilize business into all of the actions and preparations. We did that together with so many partners and companies, and helped the action tracks create the types of solutions that could be brought forward in a UN setting for national leaders and heads of state to consider actioning at national and subnational level. There was work on attacking hunger and finally really addressing and resolving the hunger crisis. There was an action area focused on net zero nature positive agricultural production, in which the government of Brazil was very active, I have to add. There was another action track on equitable livelihoods, one on healthy diets and consumer action, and then a fifth that focused on overall resilience and how to create more resilient food systems in the face of conflict, in the face of climate change, in the face of nature loss and growing inequality. We were very, very fortunate to be able to contribute to the development of many of these coalitions of action. The UN took a quite unique approach because this was a summit indeed, not something at which any country was ready for a multi-state negotiated outcome like we've achieved on climate, for example. But instead, the intent was to create multi-stakeholder coalitions where very specific actions could be brought forward, where business could indeed contribute directly, together with civil society, business, government, youth, women's organizations, indigenous peoples, communities and representatives, and very importantly also with farmers and producers. By bringing all of these groups together into these coalitions of actions, priorities were able to be established. And at the end of July, there was a 3-day pre-food systems summit held in Rome, where many of these areas for action were addressed and considered for what's the role of finance in these needed transformations? What's the type of work that could come together to address hunger? What kinds of agricultural outcomes are needed for a net zero nature positive production system? And what's the role in bringing farmers into the center of these conversations? These all led to a very focused event on September 23rd during the UN General Assembly in the midst of a time when it was dealing with many other global crises, to still look at what types of national commitments could be made. There was over 100 heads of state who spoke during the Food Systems Summit on the 23rd of September, laying out the types of consistent actions to address healthy and sustainable diets and sustainable production. And together with that, there was many coalitions further announced, including several the WBCSD and our very close and important partners like CEBEDS were definitely part of. One was focused around the role of soil health and how to create soil as an investment for farmers, for climate, and for nature. Another one was addressing the true value of food, how to begin to internalize the costs and opportunities of the environmental and social impacts that food and agricultural sector companies have, and how those, what are often known as externalities, can be brought in for clear governance and reporting. Another area that we were very involved with that had a lot of momentum was how to work the elements of systems to create mechanisms for a global living wage and decent work across all value chains. These are just a few examples. There was more addressing school feeding programs, zero hunger pledges, and we were very excited to be able to bring those to CEOs in preparation for the summit through CEO consultations that you and many of the leaders here took part in. And we will follow that up with a final CEO consultation later in early November, actually, where we will then be able to bring the real results of how the UN will continue to action the learnings from the Food Systems Summit going forward. We expect that a Food Systems Summit will be held every 2 years so that progress can be monitored both at a national level and by the types of ambitions that were set out by stakeholders. We'll be watching for how businesses continue to contribute to these big platforms as outlined in our ambition declaration for business leaders to support food systems transformation. And we'll be partnering with the UN agencies who will continue to bring this work forward, allowing for the roles of business innovation and solutions to come in and help support national level transitions, as well as the types of global frameworks and methodologies that drive consistency and credibility for the work that we as business do together. So we're very excited to see how this sort of systemic change could be developed further at a global level across multiple stakeholders, and extremely proud working together with CEBEDS and our other partners in countries to bring that leading voice of business into that important conversation as well.
Obrigada, Daiane. Muito obrigada pela sua participação. Eu vou seguir.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you very much for your participation. Karin, I'm going to address a question to you again. I'd like you to say, what is the role of the consumer in the construction of this new agenda? And in what ways can companies help guide and support the creation of consumption behavior? Thank you, Adriana, for the questions. First of all, the remote work brings a few challenges. You can hear a few noises in the background, so I apologize because there's some work going on next door. It's a very important question, and it refers to sustainability, and it encompasses the evolution and the worry of sustainability and development of this planet. The first actions happened at government level when the sustainable activities started gaining force and agreements started being built so that this agenda could start developing. And then companies started engaging, defining goals, because it only happens if the companies go through changes with more sustainable actions and emission reduction, with aware consumption of resources, with focus on development and preservation. And this plays an important role in this process, defining actions of engagement and the fulfillment of these goals that are aligned with a common agenda. And we get to the citizen, and clearly he is now realizing that he or she has this power of transformation, whether there is a green or not a green product, and the engagement of environmental issues, and considering the consumist society that we have, which generates excessive and not necessary consumption. It's important to generate the impact at social and collective level with the generation of behavior change, because there are individual options of consumptions that include quality of life and local development. I'd like to recall that this is being addressed since ECO 92, when all of the bases were launched for the 2021 agenda. The consumption behavior has been changed since then. The Sustainable Development Committee at the United Nations addressed this issue with the need of looking at the non-commitment with future generations. And other terms started arising, and they are part of this social environmental citizenship, ethic, consumption, awareness and consumption. It's all ways of influencing and inspiring a change in behavior. We notice that we are addressing this more and more, or ESG goals, and this has been more and more intensified, especially because of the pandemics, and studies have shown this. A central theme is the change in the way everything is consumed in a sustainable manner. As I said, the consumer starts making choices and chooses companies and brands that demonstrate for real that they have actions that are converted. And it's not only a matter of communication. Um, they are now noticing that there is this greenwash. Saying is different than doing, so it, it is observed how companies, how they act in social, environmental questions, and the organizational behavior being transparent and correct. And in this sense, companies are more and more responsible with their production so that the consumers can increase of awareness of how and what they consume so that they can make decision at purchase. So they start creating a virtual cycle of better choices and production.
It's really two ways for companies when they decide to have a goal and act according to its practices regarding ESG. They normally create a path for good, communication. It might be very important in the decision-making process for purchasing, offering more peace of mind with organizations. We are feeling that in the increase of demand to support our clients, to understand the context in which everybody is part of, to understand, to have a diagnosis, understand a maturity, and promote actions so they are more and more aligned to their targets and goals. And it goes through understanding consumers, what makes a difference for them every day, what makes them making their decisions. So if you are pragmatic, it's very important in the business agenda. A country such as Brazil, with so many inequalities, the challenges related to the new standard of consumption goes through many standards, different standards, promoting the agenda of this conscious consumption, goes through the need of purchasing, perception about products. But I do believe that there is no way out. It's a way to have a different organization. As you said in the past, I know that there are practices that improve us, but it has to be in the core, the quality of life, of conditions, the impact that when you can overcome the difficulties, you can change. When you talk about environment, we have to be conscious how to manage risks, how to understand anti-corruption measures. It's important so investors, they can put their money in, invest in sustainable development, and all of that will reflect on the product and how this reflects the opinion of consumers. What I understand so far is to change our focus to understand low impact things, also to have low impact in the actions of the business world. In all of these social, environmental, and governance measures, they should be part of the business plan, converting in business gain. And so we should have a win-and-win equation. And to think about the planet, this is going to be a successful measure for the planet. Thank you, Karen. I would like to give the floor to Anna. Anna, a question is, I want to learn with your answers. Anna, what is the importance of engaging the leadership in this change of the organizations? Thank you, Adriana. This is a great question. I think that with the energy transition that we're going through, we need to have a better business culture, everything aligned for the 25th action and vision, and we have to work with education. As I said before, Equinor, we want to work with the energy. We are prepared for the energy transition. Our company started in Norway. We have an operation there, but our portfolio is very broad. We want to, because of our breadth, we believe that it's important to have more and more diversity. At Equinor, we want to include diversity, and that's our practice. We want to have an inclusive and open culture with several different visions, and everybody feels comfortable in putting their speaking up their mind, their voices are respected. We believe that this is key so all the teams can make the best decision. We believe that diversity is important, they're vital to change the future of the use of energy. That's the reason why our company, we want that our actions reflect the diversity in our business, in all the partners, in all the countries that we are operating now. We are very proud that in our organization in March, we were awarded of a magazine, and also showing that we have equity, gender equity. That's a priority for us, and there is a reason why for that, because we show that this equity shows how we want to be closer to people and in the societies that we work at. That's the impact that we want to leave in the people's lives. And in Brazil, Veronica Coelho, our CEO, the third leadership in the country and the first woman to be the CEO, to have this position permanently. And she talks about leadership for women that work at Equinor. She started in 2007. We were called, sorry, I couldn't listen her. So before we're selling our asset in this campus basing, we were very important because we started working there. We have assets in all the stages since the exploration, production, generation of renewable energy. In the 15 years that we are working, Veronica has lots of experiences in her area. She was a leader in different areas, in the purchasing area, and then the financial sector, and then strategy and operations. So she's got a very solid and holistic view of the business. In this new position as the president, she's taken on this position in a very challenging moment in Brazil, having this top position in a company such as Equinor in the middle of a global crisis, so having a very good impact in all sectors of the economy, but also in the people. It's important to bear that in mind. We talk about economics, but it's important to understand people's rights and how we impact people's lives. So Veronica made decisions very important to deal with the differences, with the diversity because of the pandemic. And we really understood the resilience and also the solidity of our business in Brazil. And of the adjustment in the operation with the worsening of the pandemic in Brazil, the hospital network, both private and public, they were filled up with people. We had to make a decision to suspend the decisions, embarking many professionals, and we maintained only the essential activities with very few works that were on our spaces. We decided to maintain the health of our offshore employees. So of course, this decision, committed some of the projects. We were in the stage 2 of Peregrino Basin, but even then, we put our safety first, even having financial impacts because of her decision. So as an additional measure, since the beginning of the pandemic, we have preventive measures to prevent contamination that go beyond what is required by Brazilian regulations. And because of these measures, we have more than 12,000 COVID tests with our people that are embarked in our platforms. We have a very tight control to avoid, outbreaks in our units. Unfortunately, we have closed the panel. It was so great to listen to you, but unfortunately, we've got to close the session right now. Your speech was extraordinary. I'm so sorry that I have to close. Sorry, the guys are just knocking at our door. So I'd like to thank you very, very much for your participation. Also thank Renata, Victor, everybody that invited me for today's event. And also thank CBDS and also Marina Grossi, a great leader. She's doing a great work in this organization that is the house spokesman, is a spokesperson of that in Brazil. I give the floor back to Victor and Renata, and I hope you have a great event, because Sustainable 2021 will continue the next few days. Thank you, Adriana. We are going to have a 15 minutes break, and we're going to be back for the second panel, remembering that you have to access the next panel.